Wednesday, our state carried out its ultimate punishment, the death penalty.
Mississippi, after 49 years, executing Richard Gerald Jordan for the 1976 kidnapping and murder of Edwina Martyr of Gulfport.
Will Polston witnessed the execution by lethal injection and joins us now. And Will, you were one of 7 journalists chosen to be witnesses of this execution. But what I found interesting was you weren't just surrounded by journalists. There were also other people in that room watching, and one of those persons was Jordan's wife, who was also watching along with his attorney, Doug Walker, who used to be a reporter here. We spoke with him last week. He had attended an execution before. He said when he went, he was only thinking about the victim and the victim's family, the reason that this was all happening. Was that difficult to focus on the reason that you were there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whenever you walk into the room, well, whenever we were first escorted into the room, the only people in there were those 3 folks, his spiritual advisor, his wife, and then his attorney, Chrissy Noble. And so, these are the only other people outside of the guards in our room that we're experiencing this with. And so whenever the curtains rise and you see Mr. Jordan there, I mean, you can hear his wife, crying. She's crying whenever we walk into the room. A couple of whispers in between her and the spiritual advisor. So it's definitely the first person you think of to see, she's witnessing her husband being put to death. And so, there's definitely something that was definitely the first thing you think of, but ultimately at the end, you also consider the Martyr family as well. I mean, this was something, nearly 50 years ago, that was just a horrible act, and, it ruined a family at the end of the day. And so, at the end of the day, you do end up thinking of both of them by the end of it, for sure.
The objectivity there, you have to be, as a journalist, thinking about both ways. But one thing we were told in this situation, it almost feels antiseptic in a way, almost, nothing quote unquote brutal, that kind of thing. You're sitting there thinking, okay, this man's being put to death, but did it have that feel,
The weirdest feeling, I will say, was the anticipation up to the point. Whenever you're sitting in the observation room that we were in, we're told that we cannot talk. We're told that we are not allowed to speak to each other, nor the victims, representatives that are, or the one being executed, his representatives that were there. So it's silent. We're sitting there, and the only thing you can really hear is your own ears ringing up until the point where they raise the curtains and they start the execution. And there's no lights in the room that we were in. It's completely dark. The only ambient light we had is from behind the curtain of the execution room. And so it's a very dark and eerie feeling, but once the curtain raises, you realize just how, I would say, how punctual and how formal this act is. And so it doesn't give a gory feeling once you're watching it. At the end of the day, it just looks like someone falling asleep.
Yeah, and the Martyr family, members of her family spoke after the execution, and they said that, I believe, that they felt like that justice had been done, although it took 49 years, almost a half century, as the crime was committed in 1976. Did you get the feeling that they were relieved when you saw them afterwards?
I mean, I'd like to think they were, but I've had the chance to speak to a couple family members after the fact, not on record for any interviews or anything like that. And, a lot of them are denying to do interviews, and a lot of them are saying they don't have anything to say because they're upset with how long this took. And of course, it's a battle between the justice system. Of course, he has his rights to his appeals and everything, on the side of the legal aspect of things. But a lot of people are making the argument that nearly 50 years is too long, if that's the case. And so it toes a gray line, and it makes you, again, it makes you feel for both parties at the end of the day. But he definitely seemed to be in better spirits than a lot of the people that I've just had the chance to speak to over the phone.
Sure, yeah, it's that line. It goes from ethical, biblical, moral. There's so many different aspects of it that goes back really throughout time if you really, really think about it. The whole experience, what do you take away from it? What's the bullet points for you saying, okay, this, and this is really what hit me with this trip to watch that?
Yeah, really what hit me the most was definitely just the first feeling whenever those curtains rose. I mean, this is the first time I've witnessed an execution. Yeah. This is, for many of us media witnesses as well, I think 5 of the 7 of us were witnessing an execution for the first time. So this was a thing we were going in blind. You can watch interviews, you can watch whatever, but of course we can't take cameras in there. We don't know what to expect visually whenever we walk in there. And so it was a weird feeling whenever it opens up and there's just a person in every corner staring at this man strapped down. And so it gives you a weird, eerie feeling, because I tell people, I try to think about this in any other segment than inside of a prison. I mean, if you were to come up on this, it would be the weirdest thing you encounter. But of course, with it being so planned out and being in a constant situation, it becomes a little bit more, you understand why you're there, and it definitely in the moment is a little bit eerie at first, but ultimately, like I said, it seemed like a very humane thing. He didn't seem to struggle, and put to death peacefully.
And ultimately the sentence was carried out there after such a long time. Will Polston, thanks for joining us this morning for your insight into that, something that happens rarely in Mississippi.
Absolutely.
And we thank all of you for joining us this morning on WLOX News This Week.
That's right. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time on WLOX News This Week. Take care, everybody.